They told me the crowd would be loud. They did not tell me it would sound like the world was coming apart at the seams. I am thunder, 14 years old, 16 hands high, coat the color of a moonless night, and on this particular Tuesday morning in April, I am standing at the inner gate of Buckingham Palace with my ears pinned flat against my skull, and every nerve in my body screaming the same word over and over. Run! The gate has not opened yet. I can hear the crowd on the other side of it, a wall of sound, a living thing, pressing against the iron bars like water against a dam. Camera shutters, children shouting, someone with a whistle they have absolutely no business owning. The smell coming through the bars is extraordinary in the worst possible way. Exhaust fumes, fried food from a cart somewhere on the mall, 40 different varieties of sunscreen, and underneath all of it, the particular electric smell of 10,000 humans in a state of high excitement. I've been in training for 3 years. 3 years of loud noises and flapping flags and men in high visibility, jackets waving foam pool noodles at my face. I passed every test. I was graded excellent in traffic conditioning. My handler, a small fierce woman named Margaret who smells of peppermint and absolute authority, told me last week that I was ready. Margaret has never been wrong about a horse in 30 years. I am beginning to think there is a first time for everything. The guardsman on my back is named Davies. I know this because I have heard the other men call his name approximately 400 times in the past month, usually followed by instructions, corrections, or the particular tone of voice that means not like that. He is 23 years old. He weighs exactly what a 23-year-old guardsman should weigh, distributed in the precise way that tells me he has been trained to sit correctly, weight balanced, heels down, hands quiet. His hands are quiet now. Everything else about him is not. I can feel a heartbeat through the saddle. This is not unusual. I can always feel a rider's pulse if I pay attention, a faint drumming through leather and cloth and the warmth of a living body. Davy's heartbeat right now is not faint. It is not drumming. It is doing something that I can only describe as a full orchestral performance in a very small venue. The gate begins to open. The sound doubles, triples, becomes something that has no good name in any language I know, which admittedly is limited but still. The light changes, the gray April sky opens up beyond the iron bars, and suddenly there is the mall, stretching away in a straight line toward Trafalgar Square, and lining every inch of it on both sides are people. So many people. People with flags and cameras and foam crowns and expressions of absolute delight that I find, under the circumstances, personally offensive. We move forward. My hooves hit the stone and the sound changes. That familiar hard click that I have heard 1,000 times in the training yard. But in the training yard, it echoed off 4 walls and a roof. Out here, it is swallowed immediately by the crowd noise and the city noise and the distant sound of a bus and someone on a bicycle who really should not be on a bicycle anywhere near this procession. But here we are. Davies does not move, does not shift, does not make a sound. I keep walking. This is, I will later understand, the entire job. Keep walking. Whatever happens, keep walking. All the training, all the noise conditioning, all the flag waving and pool noodle exercises and Margaret's 30 years of expertise, it all reduces in the end to this. Keep walking. Look calm. Do not let them see. The first camera flash comes from the left, 3 steps out of the gate, then another, then approximately 900 more in the next 4 seconds. I know intellectually that cameras are not threats. I know this. Margaret taught me this with great patience over many months. What Margaret could not quite teach my nervous system is to feel that knowledge in the moment. Because my nervous system was designed over 40 million years of evolution to treat sudden bright lights as events requiring immediate physical relocation. I do not relocate. This is, I feel, one of my finer moments. A child directly to my right makes a sound that I can only describe as a compressed air horn in a human body. She is perhaps 4 years old, wearing a miniature version of a guardsman's uniform, including a bearskin hat that is roughly the same size she is, and she is waving a flag on a stick with the full-body commitment of someone trying to signal a rescue aircraft. The flag passes within 8 inches of my nose. I keep walking. A tourist, large coat, enormous camera, lanyard suggesting some kind of press credential that I strongly suspect is not legitimate, steps off the barrier line to get a better angle. A police officer intercepts him immediately, but for one full second he is simply there, in the space that is supposed to be empty, at eye level, too close, and his camera makes a sound like a machine gun on continuous burst. Davy's left leg presses very slightly against my side. Not a command, not a correction, something smaller than that. Something that says in the language that exists between a horse and the person on their back, I know, I feel it too, keep going. I keep going. By the time we reach the first bend, I have cataloged the following threats, each of which my nervous system has assessed as potentially fatal, and my training has overruled in real time. 14 camera flashes from unexpected angles, 3 children making sudden loud noises, 1 pigeon that landed on the barrier directly in front of me, and stared with the flat-eyed confidence of a creature that has never once been prey and has no plans to start. A man in a full-body Union Jack costume who waved both arms in what I can only assume he believed was an encouraging gesture, a helium balloon that escaped its owner and drifted across the procession route at exact eye height. And one tourist who had obtained, from somewhere in the supply chain of terrible ideas, what appeared to be a vuvuzela. The vuvuzela man was removed by security before he could deploy his weapon. I am grateful. My gratitude is profound and sincere. The mall is long. I have walked it in training, in the early morning when it is empty and the only sounds are birdsong and the distant rumble of the city waking up, and it felt like nothing at all, a pleasant stretch of flat ground between 2 points. Lined with 40,000 tourists on a Tuesday in April, it feels like a different planet. The flags, the colors, the noise, the smell, the sheer density of human enthusiasm packed into a narrow corridor. I process all of it through a nervous system that is, at its core, still the property of an animal that used to get eaten by things. I process it, I keep walking. Somewhere in the middle of the mall, between the point where we left the palace gates behind, and the point where horse guards parade is still too far ahead to be a comfort, I notice something. Davies is breathing differently. I know how Davies breathes. A horse always knows how their rider breathes. It is information delivered directly through the saddle, through the shift of the ribcage, through the subtle movement of the torso above me. In the training yard, Davies breathes steadily, a controlled rhythm, the breathing of someone paying attention. In the early morning exercises on the parade ground, he breathes with the particular evenness of someone who has decided to be calm and is making good on that decision. Right now, in the middle of the mall, surrounded by 40,000 people, he is not breathing evenly. He is taking one breath and holding it too long, then releasing it in a way that is just barely controlled, then taking another. It is a pattern I recognize not from any human I have carried before, but from myself. It is the breathing of something that is afraid and has decided that the fear is not in charge today. The decision is visible in every breath. The fear is visible in the gap between them. I had thought he was calm. He is not calm. He is doing exactly what I am doing. We are, both of us, pretending. We are pretending for the crowd on the left and the crowd on the right and the cameras and the children and the man who had a vuvuzela and the pigeon and all 40,000 expressions of delighted, flag-waving, foam crown-wearing human enthusiasm that lines the mall on this particular Tuesday in April. We are pretending because the job is to pretend. Because the thing that looks like bravery from the outside is, on the inside, 2 living creatures making a continuous decision not to run. I find this, unexpectedly, enormously comforting. I do not know why it should be. The fact that Davies is afraid does not make the cameras less bright, or the crowd less loud, or the Vuvuzela man less of a public menace. The facts of the situation have not changed, and yet something in the weight of him on my back shifts slightly, not physically, not in any way the crowd could see, but something changes in the quality of the pretending. It becomes, somehow, shared. We are not two separate creatures each performing bravery alone. We are one unit performing it together. I square my shoulders, insofar as a horse can square its shoulders. We keep walking. The tourist with the sandwich finds us approximately 2/3 of the way down the mall. I smell it before I see it, bread and something processed and enthusiastic, thrust through a gap in the barrier by a man of generous proportions in a t-shirt that reads London 2024 and an expression of genuine, wholehearted friendliness. He is not trying to cause an incident. He is trying to make friends, with a horse, on a ceremonial procession route. In front of a metropolitan police officer, who is already moving toward him with the expression of someone who has had this exact day before, and did not enjoy it the first time. "Here you go, big fella," the sandwich man says, with the confidence of someone who has never met a horse that didn't want his sandwich. He is not wrong about me wanting the sandwich. This is the most embarrassing part. Davies makes a sound. It is too quiet for the crowd to hear, barely audible over the noise, and it is not a word. It is the sound of someone who, in the middle of being terrified, has just found something briefly funny. A small sound, almost nothing. It lands on me like a steadying hand. The police officer intercepts the sandwich man. The sandwich is removed from the situation. We walk on, and for approximately the next 30 seconds, something in the quality of Davies' fear is slightly lighter than it was before. Not gone, not resolved, just briefly lighter, as though the absurdity of the sandwich in the middle of everything was a reminder that the world is also, sometimes, ridiculous in harmless ways. I have thought about this since. The way a small stupid thing can cut through a large serious fear. The way laughter, even the smallest version of it, even a sound too quiet to qualify, can share a space with terror and make the terror fractionally more bearable. I do not have a name for this. I suspect humans have several. The bang comes just before Horse Guards parade. We have turned off the mall. The crowd is different here, denser at the turn, thinner along the approach, the noise bouncing differently off the buildings on either side. I am, relative to 4 minutes ago, something approaching functional. I have categorized the crowd as loud but manageable, the cameras as bright but survivable, and the overall situation as one in which I am going to complete this route without incident, and Margaret will confirm that she has never been wrong about a horse. Then a car backfires on a street somewhere to the east. The sound is sharp, instantaneous. It has no warning and no context, and it arrives through my ears and travels the length of my spine in approximately 0 seconds, and every single thing my nervous system knows about the world collapses into one pure, ancient, absolute directive. Run. Not run away from something specific. Not run towards something safe. Just run. The way things run when 40 million years of survival programming fires all at once, and the rational part of the brain, the trained part, the Margaret part, the 3 years of conditioning part, has to fight that program in real time, in a fraction of a second, in front of 40,000 people. My front legs stiffen, my head comes up, my weight shifts back. I feel my hindquarters bunch with the beginning of something that is not going to be good for anyone. Davies' hand comes down on my neck. Not the reins, not a correction. His hand, flat against the left side of my neck just below the mane, pressing with a warmth and a steadiness that is entirely separate from anything in the training manual. It is not a command. It is not a technique. It is just a hand. The hand of something living, pressing against the neck of something else living, in the middle of a moment that is trying very hard to become a catastrophe. It lasts less than 2 seconds. I do not run. I stand for one breath, one long, shuddering, everything is very loud breath, and then I walk. forward, toward Horse Guards Parade, which is now visible at the end of the approach, the arch opening up into the parade ground beyond, the waiting crowd and the waiting ceremony, and the end of the route that has felt, for the last 15 minutes, like it might never arrive. I walk. Davy's hand returns to the rein. Quiet again. Correct. Exactly where it is supposed to be. No one in the crowd saw what happened. No one watching the footage later will see it either. It was too small, too fast. Too invisible against the backdrop of the ceremony's formal geometry. A horse that almost broke. A guardsman's hand. 2 seconds. The mall did not end British monarchy today. I choose to accept some of the credit for this. Horse Guards Parade is everything the mall was not. The crowd is behind barriers at a distance. The noise is still present, but it has shape. It rises and falls with the ceremony, directed and purposeful rather than continuous and ambient. The ground is different under my hooves, the familiar cobbles of the parade ground that I know from training, and the familiarity of it, that specific sound, that specific give, does something to my nervous system that the entire route through the mall could not. I know this ground. I have stood on this ground 100 times. I am not a strange horse in a strange place. I am thunder on the parade ground doing the job. We take our position. The ceremony proceeds. The crowd watches. The cameras capture it all, the straight lines, the still horses, the guardsmen who look carved from the same stone as the buildings behind them, the particular quality of British pageantry that has been refined over centuries into something that looks completely effortless and is, I can now confirm from personal experience, absolutely not. I stand still. This is what I was trained for and what I am built for and what 3 years of Margaret's expertise has prepared me to do. Stand still. Look calm. Breathe. Do not let them see that 12 minutes ago a pigeon nearly caused a diplomatic incident, or that a man with a sandwich wanted to be my friend, or that a car backfiring nearly ended everything, or that the guardsman sitting perfectly motionless on my back with the face of a man carved in ceremonial stone was, the whole time, just as afraid as I was. The crowd does not see any of that. They see what they came to see: the precision, the tradition, the red coats and the black horses, and the ceremony that has been performed so many times it has its own gravity. They photograph it and film it and post it with captions about British excellence and timeless tradition and the dignity of the monarchy, and they are not wrong to do so. Exactly. The thing they are photographing is real. It is just not the whole story. The whole story includes the sandwich, and the pigeon, and the vuvuzela man, and a car backfiring on an eastern street, and a hand on a neck that lasted 2 seconds, and a breath held too long and released in a way that was just barely controlled. The ceremony ends. Davies dismounts. He does it correctly, the standard dismount, practiced and precise, the kind that looks like he has done it 10,000 times because he has done it. If not 10,000, then enough. He lands on the cobbles and takes my reins and leads me the 3 steps to the holding position, and the other guardsmen are doing the same, and it is all correct and proper and exactly as it should be. Then, when the formation has shifted and the crowd's attention has moved with it, and there is a moment, a small gap, barely a moment at all, Davies turns toward me. He does not say anything. There are no words exchanged in this version of the story because horses do not speak English and guardsmen in formation do not speak at all. And we are still technically in formation and technically being watched, and technically everything is still official and correct. He rests his forehead against mine. For 3 seconds, maybe 4. His forehead against mine and his hand on my nose and his eyes closed, and the crowd noise continuing around us, and the ceremony carrying on, and no one, not one camera, not one tourist, not one vuvuzela man, catching what is happening in this particular 3 feet of space, because they are all looking at the spectacle and not at the gap between a guardsman and his horse where something quieter is occurring. I breathe out. He breathes out. That is all. That is the whole of it. He steps back. He resumes his position. He looks forward with the face of a man carved in stone, and anyone looking at him now would see exactly what they expect to see: the calm, the precision, the tradition, all of it intact, all of it exactly correct. What they would not see is what I felt in those 3 seconds. Two terrified creatures who kept going anyway. Not because the fear went away. Not because the training made it easy, or the crowds were manageable, or the Vuvuzela man was dealt with before he could deploy his weapon. Not because Davies is uniquely brave, or I am uniquely calm, or either of us is any kind of exception to the rule that living things are afraid of things that are loud and bright and unpredictable and close. But because we had each other. Because his heartbeat was doing a full orchestral performance in a small venue and mine was doing something similar, and we both knew it, and we both kept walking forward anyway together, in the strange partnership that exists between a horse and the person on their back. A partnership that has no clean language to describe it, that exists entirely in the press of a leg and the warmth of a hand and a shared breath on a parade ground after something that was harder than it looked. This is what the photographs do not show. The photographs are beautiful. I have seen them in the way that a horse sees things peripherally, in passing, in the screens and printouts that humans carry everywhere. They show a black horse and a red coat and a straight line down a London street, and everything in them is composed and correct and appropriately magnificent. They do not show what it cost. They do not show the pigeon that nearly ended the British monarchy, or the 14 camera flashes catalogued by a nervous system that is still, at its core, the property of an animal that used to get eaten by things. They do not show a breath held too long, or a hand that lasted 2 seconds, or a forehead pressed briefly against a nose, in a gap between formations when no one was looking. They show what bravery looks like from the outside. I can tell you what it looks like from the inside. It looks like 2 seconds before you decide not to run. It looks like a hand, flat, warm, saying nothing except "I know, keep going." It looks like a man with a sandwich, and a pigeon with the confidence of something that has never been prey, and a small sound, too quiet for the crowd to hear, that was not quite a laugh but was enough. It looks at the end like a forehead against a forehead. No words, no performance, no crowd watching, just the end of something that was hard and the beginning of understanding what the hard thing was for. I am thunder, 14 years old, 16 hands high, coat the color of a moonless night. I walked the mall on a Tuesday in April, and I was afraid the entire time, and I did not let them see, and neither did he, and the crowd got their photographs, and the tradition continued. And the monarchy was not ended by a pigeon, or a sandwich, or a car backfiring on an eastern street. And when it was over, the only true record of what it actually was, what it cost, what it meant, what kept both of us walking forward through the noise and the light and the 40,000 expressions of enthusiastic, flag-waving, foam-crowned human delight, was 3 seconds on a parade ground that nobody photographed. That is all right. Some things are better without an audience. Some things are meant only for the 2 creatures who were there. If you have ever stood at the barrier and watched the procession pass and thought, they must feel nothing, they are trained, they are beyond fear, they are different from us, I want you to know that you are wrong, and I want you to know it kindly because the mistake is understandable. They look like stone. The training is real. The tradition is genuine. The precision is not performed. It is earned. With years and repetition and Margaret's 30 years of expertise and early mornings on an empty mall when the only sounds are birdsong and a city waking up. But inside the stone always, a heartbeat doing a full orchestral performance. Inside the calm always, the decision, made fresh every step, not once at the beginning with the courage all used up in one moment. Every step, the choice to keep going, renewed with every hoofbeat on the stone. That is what the photographs are of, even when they do not know it. Not the absence of fear, the refusal to let it win. Watch the procession again if you can. Look at the horse. Look at the hands. Look at the way a guardsman's weight sits in the saddle, and remember that inside the ceremony, inside the red coat and the perfect stillness and the chin that never drops, there is someone who is making a choice right now, in this moment, in real time, the same choice every time, the choice that never gets easier, only more practiced. Keep going. And next time you are afraid of something and you keep going anyway, and no one can see it from the outside, know that this, precisely this, is what it looks like when something is actually brave. Not the ones who feel nothing, the ones who feel everything and walk forward anyway. The gate opens. The hooves hit the stone. The crowd roars. We go.